Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you guys what is a mutation test and what it actually does. So everybody who is watching this video must be familiar with some kind of unit test or test driven development. So when we do test driven development, we normally tend to cover the line coverage of our code, but we sometimes forget to cover the conditions. And what I mean by that is there may be many conditions or depending on the input, and your code may run in different way with those inputs. Sometimes we just could not think about all of those scenarios or all of those inputs that could happen in your test, that could happen in your code, and we tend to miss them. So let me show that to you with an example. uh, let's say I have a simple class called, let me create a package called sum, and in the sum package I have a simple class which is logical sum, which is not the exact sum that we are familiar with. It's a different kind of sum. So logical sum will do something different than a normal sum. What we'll do is it will take two parameters a and b. Logical sum a b, and then it will return the result based on some logic. Let's say the logic would be something like uh, if a is greater than 4, then return a minus b, else if b is less than minus 4, return b minus a. What's going on? A, else return the normal sum a plus b. Okay, what is this? Return a plus b. Okay, so it has slightly different logic. So how many tests do you think you should write to cover all of the logic that this class is performing? Think about it, and I'm going to create a test class. Create test. Okay, let me divide it vertically. Alright, so we annotate it with run with spring runner dot class, and context configuration. Context configuration will basically tell Spring not to initialize the context, and this class is sufficient to run all the tests inside it. It does not need any uh, bean to run this test. So what do you think, like how many tests do you think this class requires to perform the logic that the logical sum is performing? So this line definitely, one test with a is greater than 4, another test with b is less than 4, another test will be, so minimum 3 tests, right? So let's try the 3 tests. So this is what normally this is how people normally think when they are doing the TDD. So they will think of these conditions and write the test for that. So let's go and actually show that with an example. I'm just gonna call this first 0 test, which is for the first condition. You should actually name your test properly, but just for the sake of this video I'm gonna name it like this. So let's say int a equals to 5, b equals to anything, let's say 4, right? Let's create a instance of our logical sum class. Sum logical sum equals to new logical sum, and actual answer is logical sum dot logical sum a comma b, and assort equals. So what do you think this actual should be for this test? Should be a minus b, which is expected is 1, actual is actual. So make sure this test is passing. I'm not gonna do the proper TDD right now. In the proper TDD format, you have to write these tests and then write your code to make this test pass. But I'm not gonna do that for this video because the focus is more on mutation test and not on actual TDD. So first test is okay. Second zero test is let's make this less than 4, which is 3, and b make it 9, doesn't really matter, and then we'll call a and b, and the result will be 9 minus, no, it is b is less than minus 4, so it should be minus 5. The result will be minus 5 minus 3 minus 8, should be minus 8. Let me just make sure of this. Run this, it is okay. So this line is covered, and then again the final test will be is less than 4, which is fine. B is greater than minus 4, which is, let's say, 3, and the result should be result should be 6, which is a plus b. So if I run this test is also passing, that means it's okay. So line coverage wise, all of these lines are covered. So this is what normal people will write the test. Most of the people will write the test about like this. They will think of the conditions, write the test, make the code, passes, okay, move on. But let's see what we might be missing. Let me quickly go through our mutation test. So this is a mutation test website where you can go and you can just plug this mutation test plugin in your build tool. For now I'm using Gradle, so I'm gonna open my build.gradle file, and I'm simply going to insert the 2 lines of code, the dependency, which is where is it? So dependencies section, I'm gonna insert the info solid soft Gradle PyTest plugin 140, and I'm gonna apply this plugin in the plugins section, which is right over here. Okay, so now that this is done, I'm gonna go to my terminal and I'm gonna run Gradle PyTest. So let's see the result. PyTest, what it actually does is it mutates these conditions and checks whether any of our tests is failing, which means any of our test is catching those errors. And if we go to the build folder, test reports, PyTest, and this folder, we can actually see the PyTest here. So for the sum class, for other class we have not written mutation test, so the mutation coverage it is showing as 100%, but for the class that we have written, it actually analyzes the mutation coverage, and we can see that only 80% of the conditions are covered. So if you go inside the class, whereas the 100% of the line is covered and 80% of the mutation is covered. So go inside the class and you can see that A is so this line is covered properly, but this line has a condition in which is at least one of the condition is not covered, and this line also some condition are not covered. So if you hover over this, you can see that negated condition survive. Negated means it will just say not, it will just PyTest will just add not A is greater than B and run the same test, and it is killed. So that one is correct, but it also changes the conditional boundary, which means this sign it will change to greater than or equals to, and then it will expect some test to fail for this mutation to be covered by the unit test. So that is not happening right now. So if internally mutation test, PyTest is changing this greater than to greater than and equals to, and none of the tests are failing. So how do we fix this? Let's go to the code. Let's see. So what is happening is, if PyTest is changing this greater than to greater than and equals to, and running all of these unit tests, and all of these tests are passing, which is a problem because unit tests are not catching this scenario. So tomorrow somebody makes a mistake and makes this else equals to on that code, uh, the unit test will not catch that error. So that is a problem. So let's fix that. So what will happen in this case? So the first test, right? So let's replicate the first test here, and let's name it first one. And what is saying? Equals to 4, right? So in this case, we cannot directly attack this layer. So what we can do is a is equals to, we can say 4 over here, and this is whatever name, doesn't matter. So a is equals to 4 and b is still, let's make it less than -4. So in this case, what it should return is this value, which is minus b minus a, which is -5, -4, -9. Right. So let's check this. Okay. So now if mutation test makes this as equals to, at least one test should fail here. Okay, which means this condition is covered by the unit test. So right now you can see the conditional coverage of this code is 80%. Okay, let's run the mutation test again. So it is doing all these tests that it has done before, and we can see, if we just click here, you can see another report that is generated, and then we go to the index.html file and open it with the browser, and you can see the mutation test is increased to 90%. Previously it was 80%, now it is 90%. So let's go inside and see what is happening. So as you can see, this condition is covered now because we have a test for this value, which will fail if mutation test tries to change this value. Now for this condition also the same problem is occurring, where it says change conditional boundary survived. So what is happening is mutation PyTest is changing this condition to this condition, and none of the tests are failing, which is a problem. So let's fix that. How do we test this scenario where b is equals to -4 but the tests are still passing? So let's copy one of these tests, Control V, name to 1, and what we can do is we can say b is equals to -4, a is again less than 4, so it will not go here, it will not go here. So this condition should be 3 minus 4 is -1, right? So happy, all the tests are passing properly. Okay, so now run the PyTest. It will take some time, it will do all of these things it was doing, it will change the conditions, negate it. There are different kind of mutators that it uses to mutate and verify that the tests are failing. So let's go into the index.html again and see the result. So now the mutation coverage is 100%. You can go here and see all of these are green, so it is doing all of these things, change the conditional boundary, and at least one of the unit tests is killed, which is a good thing for mutation test. Change the negated the condition, and at least one of the unit tests is failing. It does the same thing with this one also, and at least one unit test fails, so that condition is covered. So all of these conditions are covered. So the idea is that sometimes just the line coverage is not enough or not a good case. You have to have a proper safety net, and mutation test can help you achieve that. It can help you identify what internal conditions might be missing from your code, so that you can write it properly, and it will have a proper safety net for your code, so that tomorrow some new developer accidentally changes some code, and the test should notify that okay, the developer has done some error by failing some of the test, which it PyTest can help you achieve that. It's not 100%. Like sometimes there are code which may not be tested, or may not reach, you may not miss the 100% mutation coverage to some of the tests, which is okay. But again, not having 50% and being able to increase it to 80% or 90% is better than not having the mutation coverage at all. So that's all for this video, guys. If you have any questions, please comment, and I will try to reply it probably in the next video. Thank you.